how to address the concerns we have on plastic waste and other wastes in general. So for the outline of the presentation, next slide, please. So I would be discussing in a bit Lafarge Holcim, or now just recently we have been rebranded again to Holcim, and Geocycle Philippines. I discuss a little on co-processing and how this can provide solutions to our waste management challenges that we have been experiencing. Next slide. So in 2015, two construction giants, Lafarge and Holcim, merged that then gave birth to Lafarge Holcim. Now it's back to Holcim. It came into a combined experience of 180 years on cement manufacturing. Later on, you're wondering what a cement company is doing on waste management. And for me, initially, it was quite weird as well. So next slide. In the Philippines, we maintained the Holcim Philippines brand, and we are a member of the Holcim Group. Next slide. So basically, the core values that we operate on, of course, the overarching value that is embedded in everything that we have been doing, what we would be doing as well in our planning process, in our strategy, is health and safety. Also, we highly value customers or customer focus, results oriented activities. We operate with high integrity. We, of course, especially now, focus on sustainability and on the global level as well. Just this year, we have appointed our Chief Sustainability Officer, and in the Philippines as well, we now have a Senior Vice President for Sustainability, or our Chief Sustainability Officer. And of course, we look at our people. So next slide, please. Yeah. So on the sustainability part, we look at 4 pillars, which would be on climate, circular economy, water and nature, and people and community. So, but for this discussion, we would be focusing on the circular economy. Next slide. So what is Geocycle? So basically, Geocycle is not a separate legal entity. We are the global waste management brand of Holcim. So in the Philippines, we are a department of Holcim Philippines handling waste, or tackling the waste management, or we are considered as the waste management arm of Holcim Philippines. Next slide. So we operate in 5 areas, and 4 of which we do have integrated cement plants. So in Bacnotan, La Union, in Norzagaray, in Bulacan, in Cebu City, we also have Lugait in Misamis Oriental, or Northern Mindanao, and in Davao City. So our facilities have treatment, storage, and disposal permits, and we do apply for transporter registration certificate as well, for us to be able to handle hazardous wastes. So here it says we utilized 11.5% thermal energy from alternative fuels in 2020. What does that mean? So part of the materials that we are utilizing are actually agricultural wastes, which is more or less what is considered as carbon neutral fuels. Why? Because during the time that they are growing into our products, they are sequestering significant quantities of carbon dioxide that by the time that you use it as alternative fuel, it is actually carbon neutral. So the carbon dioxide it gives off, it's pretty much the same as the carbon dioxide that it was able to get from the environment. So to give you an idea how much this is, so it's like we operated more than a month with a carbon neutral fuel. So 1 month in 11 days, in 1 month in a year, we operated more than a month in a year. We operated with carbon neutral fuel. So next slide. So just to give you an idea, well, Sir Bert has already mentioned this as well in the earlier presentation, that we are really in deep challenges when it comes to waste management. So this data is still coming from 2016. This is the most recent data that we are able to gather, official data. So we are generating 40,000 tons of municipal solid waste on a daily basis. So this ranges from around 0.4 kilograms to around 0.6 kilograms on the average per capita. So per person generates this much quantity per day. So gaano ba kadami yung 40,000 tons of MSW? Every single day we are filling up 100 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Medyo gas-gas na tong comparison na to, but again, it gives you that that better concept on how much waste we are generating. Next slide. So out of the 40,000, what we're seeing is that the local government units varies collection rates from 40 to 85%. Where does the others end up? Later on, you would see in the inverted triangle that it goes as unmanaged wastes or illegally dumped. And in terms of the report of the National Solid Waste Management Commission, 48% are diverted from landfills from Metro Manila and 46% outside of Metro Manila. Next slide. Of the wastes that we generate, you would see here 52% or more than half of it are biodegradable. 28% are recyclables and 18% are residuals. So merong around 2% that are special and hazardous. So in terms of sources, I would say the residential part is almost 60%, or almost 3/5 of the wastes generated come from the residential sector. 27%, a little over a quarter, is generated from commercial operations, and only 4% is coming from industrial. So it means that if you consider the general public, 84% of the total wastes generated are actually within their influence. So this is because the commercial and residential waste are mostly operated in the realm of the general public. So next slide. So this is actually another presentation or of the previous information, but what does it really mean? It means that only out of the 40,000 tons that are generated daily, only 7,200 should end up in a landfill, or those only that are merely residual waste. And this doesn't still include the waste minimization efforts, because again, we follow the waste management hierarchy, and to be able to tackle the issues on waste management. So next slide. So our technology is cement kiln co-processing. So this is considered a sustainable waste management solution, as it conserves natural resources and of course reduces emissions that are given off by these wastes if they are improperly handled. So next slide. So co-processing is the use of waste, so as raw material, or as a source of energy, or both, replacing the natural mineral resources, or it can be considered as material recycling, because all the ash that comes out of co-processing materials would end up as part of the cement that we generate or that we produce. And replacing fossil fuels as well, such as coal, petroleum, gas. So this is considered as energy recovery. So it is considered co-processing because we do that at the same time that we are producing uh, products from an industrial point of view. So next slide, please. So this is the waste management hierarchy. So we tweaked it a little bit to show you where that's co-processing end up in this hierarchy. So how we do things, of course, when someone goes to us and asks about the waste that they generate, we advocate, can these be avoided? For those that cannot be avoided, we advocate to reduce the use or replace to a more sustainable option. For those that cannot be reduced, those that would still need further treatment or processing, we advocate reuse and recycling. That's why we do not accept PET bottles, for example, because PET, as mentioned earlier, are very much recyclable. So next, that's where co-processing ends up. So this is where recovery ends. Anything after that is for disposal. So you would see here incineration, um, physical chemical pretreatment, landfilling, and as mentioned earlier, unmanaged, and even worse, uncontrolled dumping and burning. So these are mostly where our wastes end up. So as mentioned earlier, we do have materials and energy recovery. There is incorporation into the cement process. So this means that, again, the ash doesn't end up outside of the process. And in terms of facilities, we do not have to build a full plant just so we would be able to treat. We are very fortunate that the process of cement-prone manufacturing is uh, is very much compatible with the waste management process needed to be able to safely treat these wastes. So using the use of the alternative materials is also our way of lowering our carbon footprint in terms of manufacturing cement. And of course, it is globally accepted. It's been used in other countries for over 40, 50 years with maximum temperatures of over 2,000 degrees Celsius. And I've been mentioning time and again, it's without any solid residue. And there is an inherent flue gas treatment, meaning our raw materials for making cement are basic, meaning it neutralizes any acidic gases that would come out. And there is continuous emissions monitoring system. Next slide, please. So again, these are basically the same arguments provided. That's why that what happens inside the cement kiln. So next, I would be showing the next slide. Ayan. So this is the quick schematic diagram of a cement kiln. So the main heart of the process is the one in the middle, the red tubular representation here. So this is where all the magic happens, if I may say. So this is where the wastes or alternative fuels are totally treated and ends up combined with clinker that would eventually become cement. So next slide. So we are part of the circular economy as well. So imagine going into a end of life material, and then Sir Bert mentioned earlier, we are reintroducing the end of life back into the system by utilizing it as alternative fuel. So we are not claiming to be a better alternative to recycling. Recycling is still more superior in terms of the hierarchy. But for those that cannot be recycled, instead of it ending up in landfills and sometimes in waterways or even burning it outside, uh, we are the better alternative. Next slide. So a little comparison among the current solutions. So incineration, although it's not allowed yet per se in the Philippines. So there are a lot of debates. Some say it's not explicitly mentioned that it's not allowed, but our green NGOs claim that these are still a technology that should not be used to manage wastes. But just to compare it, in terms of heat, the incinerations utilize around 800 degrees Celsius. And this is actually I would call it a volume reduction technology, because from this 20% would still need to be landfilled. We are not saying that this is not good. We are saying that we need to understand the whole process. And there is so much waste in the Philippines that actually we are not competing against each other. These are, or the waste to energy plants as well. There is so much that there is a lot of solutions, because there is no one tailor. Every solution has to be tailor fit. There is no one-stop solution for all the waste problems that we have. So in addition, for incineration plants, there would be a heavy investment needed for you to build a plant specifically to handle the wastes. Landfilling, even in high income countries, are still being utilized. But the thing is, they do not prefer landfilling because they put a high landfill tax, because they recognize that landfilling is not waste treatment. Landfilling is, as mentioned earlier, just a storage mechanism until such time that there would be probably a viable solution or a sustainable solution for all the types of waste. Unfortunately, landfilling here in the Philippines does more harm than good. Again, it might be controversial. Why do I say that? Because the level of segregation that we have in the country is not at the level that would really benefit us if we landfill it. What do I mean? There are a lot of biodegradables that still end up in a landfill. What implication does it give us? So does that give us? So if you put biodegradables in a landfill, for sure there would be anaerobic decomposition of the organics. The end result of anaerobic decomposition is the production of methane. Methane is actually more than 20 to 25 times more harmful to the environment than carbon dioxide. So that hurts our environment more. So in other countries, an engineered sanitary landfill would mean that there would be that gas capture to collect methane that would be released from this anaerobic decomposition. But unfortunately, here in the Philippines, there is very little dump sites, or sorry, landfills that have those. Okay, next slide. So again, I've mentioned this earlier that co-processing is a proven waste management technology. Just to give some more value to this is approved by the Basel Convention and the Stockholm Convention as well as a viable treatment option, and are fully recognized in countries such as India, Mexico, Brazil, US, a lot of countries in Europe. And even in the Philippines, we do have regulations supporting co-processing as well. And these are also endorsed by several international groups such as UNEP, GIZ, and SINTEF. Next slide. So this, in terms of the regulatory framework here in the Philippines, DAO 2010-06 recognizes the cement kiln co-processing and issued this guideline way back in 2010. Next slide. So next slide. So Geocycle as a group, we receive wastes and we convert it to alternative fuel to use in our cement manufacturing process. So we do not use wastes. We still convert it to alternative fuel. It's like adding value back to the wastes that were supposed to be just disposed of. So we partner with industrial and service companies to help manage their wastes. We also partner, as mentioned earlier, with the agriculture sector that would, if not for this, would have ended up just open burning their agricultural wastes because it's a burden for them. These are very voluminous sources of waste. And also, we are now full blast on partnering with local government units. So even in as far as Zambales, we do have partners already delivering to us their sorted municipal solid waste. So next slide, please. So what are the materials that can be used in co-processing? So, or some industries that we partner with that utilize co-processing technology. So the fast-moving consumer goods, food and beverage industry, petroleum, semiconductor industry, even pharmaceutical and automotive and paint. So the rubber industry as well, the agriculture, entertainment, media, and of course, our local government units. So next slide would show you what are the most common materials utilized in co-processing. Please let me just emphasize the first two. These are non-recyclable. So for example, cardboard that are being shown here, if these cardboard are, for example, contaminated by oil, this would not be allowed for recycling because it would impact the final product of the recycled material. They would have difficulty taking out the oil. Also, non-recyclable plastics. Those mentioned earlier by Sir Bert that there are inherently non-recyclable plastics. And those that Zed mentioned earlier that might be recyclable in some countries but considered non-recyclable for us because we don't have that technology to use. So rubber as well, textile and rags. These are old clothes that cannot be donated anymore. Laminates and foils or wrappers or packaging materials. Trade returns, these are coming from the food and beverage industries that are beyond their shelf life. Bottom ash or fly ash coming from power industry. Quality rejects, those are basically production wastes, and sorted municipal solid waste. So next slide would show us the hazardous wastes that we are able to handle. So that, of course, would include waste oil, processed sludge, expired medicine, adhesives, pesticides, agrichemical wastes, mold runners coming from the semicon industry, and polluted soil. But it would depend what type of pollution are in the soil. Okay, next. So just a brief rundown of how we do our business. So we do waste pre-qualification, quite a heavy one at that, specifically because this advantage could also be a disadvantage for us. The one I mentioned with the ash that is generated would end up with the cement. So if we do not do proper qualification, we might not be able to maintain the good quality of cement that we produce. So in terms of qualification, we are very strict in this because, of course, our main business is still cement manufacturing. So we would want to maintain the quality of that. So we do have, we follow all the permitting, be it by the national government, by the local government, or even in industrial zones, we do permitting as well in those. Then comes storage and transport. And eventually it comes to our plants wherein we do the necessary pre-processing for us to convert the wastes into alternative fuels or alternative raw materials, and then the co-processing comes into play. We issue certificates of treatment for all those that would require this, and these are also recognized by EMB as an official document that the materials are diverted from landfills. So next slide. So there are also some banned wastes, those that we do not allow for co-processing. This could be because of the regulatory framework, or this could be because of the impacts to the environment, and even impact to the health and safety of the workers that would be handling from our side. So radioactive waste, because high temperature is not the way to handle radioactive waste. It doesn't remove the radioactivity, if I may say, of the waste if you put it in high temperature. Asbestos is developed, I would, as an insulation material, specifically because it withstands high temperatures. So we've seen that even subjecting it to 2,000 degrees Celsius would still end up as a fiber and could still be a risk to a lot of people utilizing cement. So this definitely would not end up. Ammunition, we don't want for our plants to explode upon contact, because again, as soon as explosives or ammunitions come into contact with high temperature, it explodes. So anatomical medical waste, we are not allowed by law to use this as alternative, to convert it as alternative fuels. Next slide. So next is the electronic fraction. This is an example that it could impact the environment, because most of the electronic fraction of we or our electronic wastes have high heavy metal content. So of course, we are not just here just to say, okay, we're providing solutions and at the end polluting the environment more. No, we are really looking into providing a better solution for handling wastes. So whole batteries would also explode upon contact with high temperature, and unsorted municipal solid waste. Why? Because all those banned materials could be present, and we fear the unknown. We don't want any unknown materials coming into our system. We want for all the materials that would come in that would be identifiable. Okay. Next slide. So our commitment is really working for a cleaner planet. We're here not just to say, okay, we're the solution. We tailor fit our services to the needs of the partners, be it industrial, be it agricultural, or be it in the local government unit. We are also very excited in opportunities like this that really maximizes the awareness campaigns. And given all those, we want to bring you peace of mind, so you could really focus on the operations, on what you're currently doing. We guarantee end-to-end transparency and traceability, so there would be no waste that we would not be able to account for, given the high standards of health and safety and regulatory compliance that we advocate in everything that we do. And of course, especially for those companies that are just new in the sustainability bandwagon, if I may say, we are a good partner in terms of ensuring circularity of your products, in ensuring the attainment of your sustainability agenda. So to end the presentation, so we want really on the next slide, we really want to be part of the solution. So you may contact us. We are fully committed to our partners to support and managing their waste through cement kiln co-processing. So if you would want to know further information, feel free to contact us. We do have our Geocycle Philippines Facebook page as well, wherein there would be some more information, general information on wastes, some common things that we previously knew that are true but are actually not. So some facts and myths there. And also we are present in LinkedIn. Just look for Geocycle Philippines. So that's all the presentation from my side, Zed.